Okay, thanks everyone. Let's move on to the next set of presentations. So we're going to have 4 students. Sorry, that's my... Jillian, take it away.
Okay. Right, so hello everyone. My name is Jillian and I'd like to start with my site plan and my site plan proposal. So my vision for this site is to enhance the quality of life in downtown Sumner through the use of green infrastructure and incorporate designs that apply to various modes of transportation, which would help maintain a small town atmosphere. And the vision also hopes to invoke a sense of community through enhanced public spaces that could increase walkability. In order to achieve this, the site plan would increase the widths of the sidewalks along major roads in the downtown area. This can also provide a sense of human scale in relation to the size of surrounding buildings, and thus maintain a small town feel in the Main Street area as well as the rest of downtown Sumner. And since this plan appeals to pedestrians, I would like to also include bicyclists in this matter, since they're often relatively vulnerable in urban spaces. I would like to improve safety and connections for bicyclists by providing an alternative bike route, since that was an issue that was previously mentioned by residents. I also hope to allow easier connectivity within the city of Sumner through the use of public transit. Enhanced green spaces are also a priority in and around Main Street and Heritage Park in order to provide a sense of tranquility and community. The plan also hopes to confront the issue with the color of street trees by providing brighter trees along Main Street, as well as hanging flower baskets. And I would also like to provide enclosed spaces along Main Street, primarily the entrance to Heritage Park. And the plan would also enhance gateways in downtown Sumner with quality amenities such as streetlights and trees. You could go on to the one to the right over here. So with that one, in regards to my site section, I would like to identify changes this plan would make to both Main Street and Maple Street. The biggest changes that would occur to Main Street would be that the vehicular lanes would be reduced to 10 feet each. I chose to do this because of the fact that this space would be used for increased sidewalks, which is something that residents had previously requested. And I also would like to include a barrier to be placed between the two car lanes in order to slow down drivers. And this can apply to the small town feel that the area aims to maintain. And the plan would also decrease the amount of on-street parking, although it would still be available on the east side of our site section. And I chose to keep the on-street parking on the east side because there are several parking lots located on the west. And I would also do this to keep vehicles from attempting to make U-turns, which was a common occurrence around Heritage Park. On Maple Street, I chose to also increase the sidewalk space to 8 feet on each side, while also adding a bus lane and a bike lane. The sidewalk was increased in order to allow visitors to walk around the downtown area if they choose to do so. And the bus lane would travel from Main Street to the Sumner station by cutting through Maple Street. There is currently a single bike lane on Friar Avenue, so I'd like to turn that into 2 lanes. And the proposed bike lanes would travel across Traffic Avenue to Maple Street and then down to Academy Street. Pedestrians could also travel on a path alongside the bike lane, which connects the parking space west of the railroad to the Sumner station. The bike lane on Maple would be protected with the help of a barrier, which would help provide a sense of security for those who choose to ride their bicycles. So moving on then to my site, my other site section. One of the highlights of my site plan is that I would like to identify the enhancements of the Heritage Park area. So as stated previously, this space has been modified to accommodate pedestrians, although it could also apply to bicyclists who wanted to cut through the space. And bollards would be used to separate the vehicular space from Heritage Park, although cars can still be parked nearby. In addition to this, the space would allow pedestrians to escape from the potential stresses that vehicles can cause. Aside from being used as a general public space, my site plan would allow for events such as a farmer's market to be held. This was something that many residents were interested in, and this would provide a strong sense of community as well as contribute to the small town atmosphere. And I'd also like to say that the area has the potential to expand their event space to the neighboring parking lots in the blocks to the east. Or pop-up events, for example. And Heritage Park would also be framed by street trees and string lights, which would allow people to feel as if they were in a private space. And the use of lighting in Heritage Park could also appeal to nightlife and could potentially encourage events during later hours in the day during the warmer seasons.
Thank you so much, Julian. Let's move on to Joe.
Just checking, you guys hear me?
Yep. Where do you want me to zoom in?
Let's go to the first one, the statement and proposal first. And
okay.
Hi everyone, my name is Joe. Oh, sorry, I accidentally moved it. Okay. Today I will be talking about urban design framework. So I like the site because I want to keep it the Main Street as I mean the town as a small town feeling. So I would like to see the project site as a new resting and public recreation place for downtown Sumner and focusing on fixing the water overflowing water problem through the industrial alley, and that's my main focus. There will be a new area as a central node, and it will become a connection through the resident alley area to promote movement toward Main Street. There is be a if you guys can actually go up to my first one, can see the maps, because I'm just talking about the framework here. It's just easier. On top, we can look easier over here. And we can the blue area, which is the proposing green alley. So I try to connect the whole using green pathway to connect the whole Main Street site. And the area I try to propose, we will be provide multiple function open space for outdoor servers to active and explore local business. It would be also become a new node for pedestrian walking accessibility and a new route to resist traffic pressure. Second, I will be adding a new green infrastructure around this around site to control storm and also connect a green alley. Stormwater management crucial in around the area because we have a high traffic and site, and people we can also people get over that problem issue. So it's really important to control the water to run off. And my idea of the central node is to become a meeting point of the more moat, connecting a residential area from using local connection, and also how it connect to the commercial area, and also connect the whole as a create a trend from Heritage Park to all the way to the school on the right side as a whole. So my key concept is focused on walking experience and improving sustainable ability for green infrastructure. Those potential design could expand easier accessibility to Main Street and also create a faster route to access neighborhood and service. So on the right, you might go down the urban design framework. So I'm gonna explain what I'm gonna actually put in as a design.
This one down here, Joe?
To the left first. So I highlight this strict landscaping and also light landscape. These two are the mainly focused design to how to control the stormwater and acting green stuff in there. So I highlight stormwater planning, curb extension, permeable pavement, And downstairs I got Ringstone Garden. Okay, can we move to the others? To the others. Overall, the whole site I didn't do any big changes. I adding more stuff to helping the water flow. So if you can see number one, which is area I proposing, I adding a stone garden here over here. So it was public parking before I turn it down, become a ring garden, and people can actually become uh, a rest area in the middle by surrounding those ringstone garden. And actually before it was the main street, so the main street business can use the back door as like expand, attracting more people coming over. And the second one I adding some tree filter, like tree box filter to help water overflow around the area. And the third one, the ring garden, is actual become there was this why it is also helping to getting people more days to hanging around, and it's right between the alley. To the right is the filter, so people can actually get in here as a new space to throwing over to commercial or the residential. And the four, which is on Main Street. So we know Main Street have like two side street park. Didn't want to give them because I know it's important for the business. So I only what I trying to do is create a stormwater planters. I idea from the Portland actual have street have case studies. So I trying to get water problem fix it and keep it as usual. People can have more get rid of the water problem. And if I go up to on proposal section, so I can tell how Main Street I stay name, and I also just put some more details how I do the creation of the parking. So I add more stuff in there how it be located because it's kind of because it was a parking lot before, so it's a flat. So adding some green infrastructure there over there for helping the site, and that would be my design framework. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. All right, next person is Jose.
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, can you zoom into the framework? All right. This is my design framework, and for my proposal, I wanted to focus on Main Street for the most part, and I wanted to make it as pedestrian as friendly as I could. So I also decided to make it a one-way street, coming from the east and then going to the west. And by making Main Street a one-way, it would allow room for wider sidewalks for pedestrians. I also wanted to have parklets and parallel parking on the sides of the road for Main Street. I wanted to get more people to visit downtown, and one of the groups of people that I was trying to get is the commuters that are the workers that work in Sumner, like the people in the industrial area. They commute to Sumner for work and then they commute back home. But I was trying to figure out a way how to get them to stay in Sumner a little bit longer or visit the downtown area. And by doing that, I wanted to add a bus route that it's the orange lane that goes around the bottom of on Maple Street and then goes up the industrial area. It goes up Dogwood, and then I think it's Xander. I can't pronounce it right. That just goes up and comes back down. And by making Main Street one way, I would make Maple the primary route of transportation, or people can go up north and then go over the train tracks that way. And then people can and cars can go through the secondary routes that are in blue in and out of Main Street. I also wanted to talk about the green space. You can't really see too well on the map, but there's a little line going through the trail. I wanted to make a trail. There's pictures in another thing, but I wanted to make a trail that connects the green space and then goes down to downtown or to Main Street. And for the circles, the black outline circles, those are gateways that I wanted to have in the district. I wanted those to pop out and show that Sumner was going to be, or Main Street is going to be a one-way street to try to get people in cars to use a different way of going around the Main Street. So to make it more pedestrian friendly for people, having less vehicles on the road for them. And I think the next one, or the one over, or yeah, that one. Here I wanted to show a little bit more, or here's some pictures of some ideas. Like for the parklets, I would want there's a picture to the right with the parklets that would kind of pop out on Main Street. And then I drew a little sketch for the sidewalks so that you guys can have an idea of the cutouts for the parallel parking. And in the parallel parking, you can add food trucks there if you wanted to for people, or just the cafes in the area. And then also for the green space, a trail along the road, along the railroad. But I'm still trying to decide on how to make it a safe way for people to cross over. And then I also, on the yellow mark, I was thinking of putting a parking garage there. But after some of the feedback from earlier, it seems like it's probably a better idea to put it by the transit station. And then people would get picked up down in Maple Street. Do you mind going to the next one? And then here are some images on Street Mix of Main Street. There's a T on Main Street. I just noticed that. There's some images here showing how the sidewalks in the area would look down in Main Street. I try to make the sidewalks as wide as possible, and for pedestrians to have the ability to walk around safer, and have some vegetation in the area by adding trees or just smaller vegetation as a border, and having some parklets, the parallel park, and I also making sure it was really well lit for the daytime or whenever it gets dark later in the winter days when it gets darker earlier. And then for Maple Street, it would have a bus route and a little bit narrow sidewalks due to the two-way on the streets, but I tried to also keep it as wide as I could for the sidewalks. And then there's just a picture on the right showing some of the parklets. That's it.
Thank you so much, Jose. Okay, we're going to have one more student, and then there's going to be 20 minutes of feedback. So the last student is Konstantin.
Okay, so my name's Konstantin, and so looking at Main Street, what I see is the surrounding environment. So my project proposal is the idea of connecting the smaller areas. So the areas surrounding of the alleyways, any of nodes, any meeting places, any areas that people usually walk around, and usually would see mostly standing on a clear day sky. And so connect those to Main Street. So the idea is to have Main Street, if you look at the urban framework, you have the green big arrow. It's still connected to the idea as we talked about last time about having a green corridor, mentioning about the green infrastructures. And so I still want Main Street to have that green corridor, whether it's going to be natural or nurtured through street trees. And or some kind of elemental design that includes vegetation. But the idea is to incorporate this vegetation to, one is to make the street more nice and more like a cleaner perspective to have. And second is to have the corridors, the small areas connected to Main Street, and have available spaces and alleys for people to gather. So these will create entrances and exits parallel to Main Street. So that's the alleyway behind, north of alley. So you have Main Street, so you have alleyway north of it and south of it. So, and the idea, if you look on the urban design framework, it's the orange, the dashed lines with those alleyways. So there's currently right now it's an alleyway, and north one I would like to at least continue what Rhubarb Alley already is the same kind of design with the textured pathways and the textured, and with the kind of like this pedestrian friendly atmosphere on it. So I'd like to continue that, and to the right. So these kind of alleyways would be able to accommodate mostly public realms where visitors will be interacting with resting areas like small parklets inside them, and where the smart parklets and resting areas would be next to amenities like shops and dining places. And so looking at the proposed sections, as you can see, here's so section, oops, section 8A is the first section. Section 8A is north. So on the map, you can see AA as north of Main Street. So this is where, on the left side, of the road is going to be the vehicles that are for the businesses. So that would be the service vehicles going behind, or the business owners parking their cars behind there. It's on right now not really even, so the buildings are different sizes. So there's some buildings have more areas to accommodate more trash for service and more parking. Some are lined up against the parcel edge, and where this would fit against the road. And on the right side of it, we would have the pedestrian Rhubarb Alley style continue with a median of like trees or a vegetation barrier between to separate them. And the same thing goes for the other side. The south side is to have that alleyway connect from on the urban so on the framework map, it connected from Ryan House to the Heritage Park through the alleyway. That's the first step of the proposition, but further on, continue from Ryan House across to the next block to the other side to Wood Avenue. So have like this corridor that goes from one side to the next, parallel along Main Street. That's mostly pedestrian friendly, but as you see on the section, it is also available for service vehicles, trash pickup, maintenance vehicles for the buildings that are on Main Street. While the pedestrian and on the inside, it also has dining areas for people, and dining areas and resting areas for pedestrians. So to have businesses also be on this alleyway facing the public. So the business will be facing north, and then the roads themselves will also have a similar style of route. So textured pathway, so it looks like a pedestrian atmosphere. And also the proposed site images and designs, you can see that here are some of the samples of where these I'm hoping these alleyways would be. So the south side is mostly less about vehicles. So since there's available more space for the park, and again would be a median divided by it. And then on the north side is going to be a mix of both, since it's small and the service vehicles still have to get through. It's going to be half and half. And so that will be it about my proposition.
Thank you so much, Konstantin. Okay, I'm going to open it up to all the feedback now for 20 minutes.
This is Ryan. I had a question about the green infrastructure. I think it's great to have rain gardens, but we are, kind of operating in an existing, environment, I guess, with infrastructure in terms of storm drainage and everything. I guess this would be retrofitting to add these elements. I guess I'm just trying to picture how these would kind of come about in the process.
I think that's my idea. Just trying to put it in picture in there. So just in propose. So I will hopeful somebody in the rest of the quarter I can figure out, can we just make it possible, or I can do something else to help to fix the water problem.
Hi, I'm Jill. I'm from Sumner Main Street, the Downtown Association. Wow, these are all really impressive ideas, and I've got lots of thoughts swirling through my head. The one-way proposal for Main Street. Neighboring communities that have one-way proposals, and I want to say a couple, I think 2 students proposed it. Neighboring communities that have their main thoroughfare as a one-way street often complain that even though there are stop signs and stop lights, it becomes like a freeway, and that people are just driving through and not stopping. But I understand one of the reasonings for doing that is giving you more surface to work with in terms of other activities and programming. And the more I think about it, I think if you go to a curbless sidewalk, you'll accomplish the same thing. As one of the, I guess, community event planners, having that flexibility in space, especially in the times that we're in, where space is more important than ever in terms of social distancing and that sort of thing. So I think the curbless sidewalks and keeping it 2-way would accomplish that. I really like the idea of a more developed south alleyway between Heritage Park and the Ryan House. I think that's huge and significant. And then I'm kind of going back to the first group of presenters because, some of us, it takes a while for these things to sink in. I really like the idea of some sort of trail from the train station to the industrial district. I think there's opportunity there, both from the industrial district to recruit employees that might take the train. Right now, there's not a clear way to get from the train station to the industrial district. And I talked to an employer recently, a rather large employer in the industrial district, and they said as far as they knew, they had 2 employees that took the train. And I just think there's no way to get from the train to the industrial area that feels safe, convenient, easy. But then I also think that trail could provide some opportunity for our downtown businesses, for those industrial folks to either come down for lunch or after work. So those are, I love the farmers market idea. I love the lights. But yeah, lots of good stuff to think about.
I agree. I think these are great. I think that Constantine had some really good ideas about activating unused alleys off of Main Street. Was that the one I'm thinking of? And I'm wondering if there's a SEPTED element to your class, or if that's been considered, the crime prevention through environmental design, because I think that can be really important to activate those alleys behind the Main Street businesses and kind of claim those as active pedestrian friendly spaces to help prevent you know, crime and have more eyes in more places. So I really like that idea.
Yeah, I really like that idea too. This is Ryan again. Activating those alleyways has been kind of a theme through the first quarter, and hoping to see that further fleshed out as an idea this quarter. And I mean, like Jolene was saying, it activates the space, but then I was thinking around Heritage Park or these alleys, I mean, they could be other event spaces where you wouldn't even have to shut down Main Street potentially for every event that might occur. The other thing I really was intrigued with was, and this is just really because you have students and an outside perspective, but the connecting of some of these green spaces. You've got Ryan Park or the Ryan House, and then there's some green space that's undeveloped. It's not green really, it's a gravel parking lot, but it's next door, and kind of envisioning, well, what would that look like if it was connected? So those are some exciting things that I'm seeing developing here. The other question I had, I don't want to go on too much, and I mentioned this early on, that we currently have a 4-story limit on Main Street. And it's interesting as I see the cross sections, most of them are 2 or 3 stories. So that's a question I would love to get a little more insight from the students in terms of their vision. And is 4 stories too many? Should we stay at 3? Can it work at 4? Those are some questions I have.
I mean, I personally drew it 2 stories because that's what it is right now. So like this could be so this alleyway could technically be implemented within the next 10 years without really further renovating, redevelopment more of the building themselves. But 4 stories is going to be I feel like it's going to be better because then you have the business on the bottom and then the possibility of residential spaces or even office spaces on top. So you have, like, as again saying, taking away that privacy and making it into a public realm so that you have more eyes on the street, you have more flow of people on it, at least constantly, at least from at least rush hour, so morning and evening, you have more people flowing in and out. And then towards the evenings, if you have those shops, you can, if they special dining areas, you have people coming there to eat, to hang out, to have fun entertainment. And during the day, and like as you said, some events could be taking place during the day where more other types of people can be going through. So I would say, as like right now, it was just proposing it's two stories max, because it could be in the near future, while 4 stories would be in the grand scheme of things would be the best.
Constantine, I think one of the things that you mentioned was a really good point as far as considering services. And with all of these designs, that's something that we need to keep in mind is just unloading and loading for the businesses, access to trash. So I thought that was a really good point that you addressed in part of your design.
This is Michael Kosa. A couple thoughts. One was, I know people are really trying to neck down the, especially on the one-ways, looking at trying to really consolidate the cars and open up the pedestrians. The only thing to keep in mind on that is making sure that we consider fire access. Usually, they like to have 20 feet of clear zone for fire trucks in case we have an emergency type situation. So whether that might just mean moving some street furniture around so that we don't have quite that, it is not quite as claustrophobic on some of those, particularly Main Street or something like that. I like the consideration of trying to say, well, do we want to change kind of the traffic pattern and try to move folks over to Maple Street? I know the idea of a you know, like a one-way on Main is attractive, but is there ways to de-emphasize without making it a one-way? There's ways to de-emphasize if you got some other place for them to go, and if that means developing Maple Street and giving them another route around, that I think those are really good conversations to have, and say, well, what do we want to do as a city? Do we want to try to really give that pedestrian feel to Main Street? I think it's not always, sometimes I feel like I'm a little zero sum, it's an engineer thing. But you know, they have to go somewhere, and we don't want them to all go away. Some of them maybe, but we still want some of that traffic volume for the businesses. So the other piece that I wanted to mention was I really like the idea of trying to develop an alley network south of Main, and I thought that was pretty cool. We have a lot of existing City of Sumner property. I was just clicking along to see what we have and what we don't, and we could almost get all the way there with what we have, with private property that we own, or you know, not non-public right of way. So there are ways to get pretty darn close, maybe with a little bit of nudge here and there. So identifying a corridor like that and then saying we have a plan to do something about it, I think that's pretty, it would be a very powerful thing to come out of a group like this, whether it's that, whether it's saying we want to change the emphasis on Main Street and you know, choose a different east-west connection. Those kind of things are, I think, what this kind of group is all about, and trying to figure out, okay, what do we want the plan to look like, and then turn around and you know, let that direct future decision making. So thank you for all of your work.
And maybe this is Paul Fussell, building upon what Michael just said, I think all the concepts are applicable to Main Street in the district, but it will always come down to how all the puzzle pieces come together for any one design solution to really work the way you'd like it to work. So kind of going back to Ryan's question around green infrastructure, stormwater facilities, and so forth, and the space needed, I think for the existing cross section, which isn't going to change, you have to be, you have to look for those opportunities. It might not be something that's consistent along the street. It might be a curb bulb areas, or you might decide that you might take out one on-street parking space to make that green. So it's really more of an opportunities sort of exercise than it is a holistic thing. So you could retrofit a connection to a stormwater pipe to get in a rain garden in one location or in 3 locations versus the entire corridor. And then talking to what Michael had mentioned about the one-way, you know, I think the concept of trying to reduce the vehicular space for pedestrians is always a great way to go. But the problem with a one-way street is you have to have another one-way street somewhere. And then that kind of goes in hand with, I think it was Jill who mentioned that on one-way streets where there's no friction car to car in both directions, folks tend to think when they're driving that they really now can just drive without any impedance. And so you can find that the backside of a one-way is that vehicle speeds go up. And I think if you look at the data, that shows that for the most part. So again, this balancing act of trying to achieve this pedestrian-friendly district is all about the little details and opportunities you take with each concept. Thank you.
Hi. Let's see here. I have this working. Hi, my name is Michael. I don't know if it's working right now. Let's see.
It's working.
Can I get? It's working. Thank you. I love the ideas. That again, the consensus is a pedestrian-friendly downtown to live, work, and play in. I like the ideas of activating the alleys. I think that was touched on and affirmed by Jolene and Ryan and Jill. I love that idea. I serve on the Arts Commission. I think that's one of our jobs is to bring more attention, because there are businesses in some of these alleys, and there are some safety issues at times when I ride my bike around in the evenings and whatnot. So bringing more art, more walkability to these alleys is wonderful. Also, the curbless idea. If I remember right, the proposed new intersection at Main and Wood might be curbless, or that's one of the ideas. And I like that idea. If that could extend down Main Street a bit, I like that. I think the textured street where instead of it just looking like an asphalt road, it's textured. I mean, that's a signal to a more pedestrian friendly, attractive gathering place. Overall, I'm just incredibly impressed. I mean, I wish I could be your age again and go back to school, because it's incredible. The students here and the plant are shaping how I will live, and shaping how my daughter will live. And the questions that are coming up now are, well, we live like this, so what are we going to do now when things change? We only live like this because urban planners planned it like that, and we've adapted and learned to live like that. And now you have the opportunity to invite us into a different way of living in the next 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years as things change, and we learn about environmental impacts, and there's higher density. So you guys are in a really cool position to be able to shape how we are going to live our lives. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. I have lost the timer, but if there aren't any more comments, or are there, Paul, you've unmuted yourself.
Oh, I just wanted to add that I loved what Michael just said. I mean, this is all about new placemaking. It's trying to make the whole system of all the moving pieces work better, right? So, and at the end of the day, it's a place where you live and shop and have services, and you want to make it as great as you can be by this fine-tuning practice, we'll call it. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Okay, let's move on to Sabrina.